Ladies and gentlemen, children of all wages, I don't know about you, but I cannot believe that we are just 12 short weeks away from opening kickoff of the college football 2026 season. Time flies when you're having fun, even though Oregon's football season ended kind of in a bad way last year. Anyway, I'm sure you guys remember my last series last year where I gave you countdown to kickoff, where I showed you games, players, or teams in Oregon football history leading from day 50 all the way to opening kickoff. This year, I'm going to do something just a little bit different. Now, since there are 12 games in the regular season of a college football season, I'm going to give you 12 weeks where I dive deep into the history of Oregon football with each of their opponents that are upcoming on the schedule this season. So I hope you guys enjoy this year's edition of Countdown to Kickoff. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and enjoy the show.
Foot race to their sideline. Touchdown, Oregon!
To really understand the history of Boise State versus Oregon, let's rewind the clock back to the 2006 season. By this time, they haven't played each other yet, but it kind of leads up to when they actually do. Now, the 2006 season for Oregon was a little bit lackluster. They barely squeaked out a winning record of 7-6. They went to the Las Vegas Bowl, but they got blown out by BYU 38-8. It was not looking good at the time. Now, everyone was not sold on Dennis Dixon. They said, go play baseball because he was drafted in the MLB. Fans alike were not convinced that he was going to make a good quarterback for Oregon football. Now, on the other hand, Boise State had the most magical season you could probably have. They won the Mountain West and they made it to their first BCS bowl game in program history, where they were severe underdogs versus the Oklahoma Sooners, who the Oklahoma Sooners arguably had a chance to go to the BCS National Championship that year, but they didn't. And yet, Boise State won on a last-second Statue of Liberty two-point conversion in overtime after a miraculous fourth-quarter comeback to beat the Sooners that year. They were flying high, and their program made a huge leap, and they were on the rise. So that leads us into 2007 season.
We're checking it off from the sideline.
At the 9-yard line, pump fake, Statue of Liberty, Stewart, and now it's Dixon. He had me.
He didn't give it to him.
He didn't.
Now, the 2007 season was much, much different for Oregon football. Dennis Dixon was on top of the list of Heisman favorites, if not the eventual winner. No one was asking for him to go play baseball anymore. He was an Oregon quarterback. As far as the team goes, they were in conversation to finally make the national championship game, the first ever in program history. Unfortunately, the injury bug caught Oregon, where Dennis Dixon tore his ACL against Arizona in Tucson on a Thursday night football game. He probably injured it against Arizona State the week before or 2 weeks before, but unfortunately, it fully teared that night, crashing the season hopes of Oregon football and the Heisman campaign of Dennis Dixon. The injury bug continued though. Nate Costa went down. Can't remember who the third stringer was, but he went down. It got all the way to the fifth string redshirt freshman quarterback, Justin Roper. Now, Justin Roper performed really well, actually. He was surprisingly well. Oregon stopped losing games at that point. I mean, Oregon was losing games way beforehand, so the talk of national championship was long gone. But at least we saw something for the future as Oregon Duck fans, especially in the blowout against the USF in the Sun Bowl in El Paso. Justin Roper, by the time the 2008 season came around, he was the de facto starter for the Oregon Ducks. Now, one thing about success, especially for small programs, is sometimes once you achieve it, it's way, way, way harder to sustain it. Now, Boise State had a bit of a hangover season after their magical Fiesta Bowl season. It wasn't that bad. They still had a great record. They won the Mountain West, but they lost in the Hawaii Bowl after that. So they kind of took a bit of a step back, but they wanted to keep moving forward. So that's what they were looking for when they were entering the 2008 season. Now, if you thought that the 2007 season was the last you would see of the injury bug for Oregon football, you would be wrong.
Run the quarterback on the keeper. There he goes. Did he get there, though?
I don't think he made it.
Nope, he's short. And he's shaken up. Oh, boy. Holding his left knee, which has got a brace on it already. And not getting up, Justin Roper. This is the last thing you want to see. Go to overtime. When your starting quarterback comes up like that. Oh, man.
That's tough. Nate Costa has already been injured and out for the season with a knee injury.
The end of the play. Maybe just got it twisted. Oh, the landing. It was Torrey Williams landing on it that I think was the problem at the end of the tackle.
Well, one guy's holding it, and then the other guy hits his body and kind of twists his lower knee.
There's Chip Kelly, and that tells the whole story.
Justin Roper, the de facto starter at that point, everyone was very excited to see what he could do. There was high expectations. They were excited to see what he could do as a full-time starter instead of just coming in off the bench as a freshman. He went down with an injury. Nate Costa had the same injury as he did in 2007 that took him out. He unfortunately was down as well. Oregon was very, very thin already at quarterback. There was no really other choice except for Jeremiah Masoli, the JUCO transfer out of the San Francisco City College. Now, in stark contrast to the injury-riddled depth chart of the Oregon quarterback room leading into the 2008 season, leaving a lot of questions of what was going to happen in this upcoming season, Boise State had a lot of high expectations because they were bringing in Kellen Moore.
Kellen gives us the best chance right now, and we're ready to roll. We've said it all along. I mean, we'll play a freshman, we'll play a senior, whoever we think we can win with right now, that's the guy we're going with. Everybody likes to talk about that freshman-ness and categorize that. We don't really think like that, and he's ready to play. And
a future star in their eyes that was coming in to lead the offense for the Broncos. And as previous history would show, he was a star. So now we find ourselves in week 4 of the 2008 college football season. Moore versus Masoli. Chris Peterson, the new head coach of Boise State, who was a former wide receiver coach at Oregon. Justin Wilcox, a former player for Oregon, now defensive coordinator at Boise State. Oregon trying to build up on their success from the 2007 season, and Boise State trying to build on the success that they had in the 2006 and 7 season. Two programs trying to move up in the echelons of college football, being in the conversation for national championships and conference championships and bowl games, all that kind of stuff. Now we finally have their first matchup at Austin Stadium. Now, Jeremiah Masoli at this time wasn't the star that he eventually became in the next season, but he also wasn't a fresh pair of legs either. He played JUCO ball, so it's not like he hadn't played in levels higher than high school, but he was still a bit of an unknown entity at the time. But with how thin that Oregon's roster was at QB, he was obviously the only next choice. By the end of the first quarter, the Masoli-led Oregon offense was holding on to a slim 6-0 lead. And while the lead was still one possession and 6-0, the Oregon was sort of in control of this game. But that was until this moment, towards the end of the first quarter, when Jeremiah Masoli went down from a concussion due to this late hit from a Bronco defender. Now, as we all know, the quarterback room in Oregon was thin, if existent at all. Unfortunately, there was really no one left except for one quarterback, and that was Chris Harper. He was originally recruited from high school as a quarterback. He had pretty good stats in high school as a quarterback, but by the time his tenure ended at Oregon, he was moved to receiver. And by his tenure in college, he was still a receiver, and he went to the pros as a receiver. So he wasn't really a dyed-in-the-wool quarterback, if you will. So the offense really stalled after this point, giving Boise sort of the opening to pounce on it and jump on this opportunity. Boise State did. They scored 24 unanswered points in the second quarter alone. By the time halftime came about, Boise State was up 24-6. It was looking like it was out of control for Oregon. As the second half began and the game made its way through the third quarter, Oregon couldn't do much else but to keep Chris Harper behind center. And unfortunately, the offense still stalled, and Boise State was still rolling, and they ended up going up 37-13 by the time the fourth quarter came about. It was officially a blowout. Kind of shocking to a lot of people in Eugene, Oregon that day. At the beginning of the fourth quarter, Coach Mike Bellotti was at a bit of a decision point. Either leave Chris Harper in and let this game spin from a blowout to an absolute beatdown, sort of ruining the optics of what Oregon has built as a program over the past few years, not to take away from what Boise State has built up those same years, or bring in a secret weapon to try to salvage this game as much as he can. Well, he decided to pull the pin and bring in his secret weapon. Redshirt freshman, fresh off the bench, hasn't played a snap of live college football in his life, Darren Thomas. And boy, did that gamble pay off in a big way. Not only did we see what Oregon had in the future with Darren Thomas, but he made a valiant comeback effort, throwing for 210 yards, 3 touchdowns, and unfortunately an interception that sealed the game though, leading Boise State to win 37-32 in this game. It was unfortunate that Oregon was not able to win this game, but everyone finally saw what the future looked like at quarterback if they were to stay healthy for Oregon football. Now, the drama of this game did not end when the clock ticked 0 and Boise State got their first ever win against a BCS opponent on their home turf. There was a few Oregon players that didn't take too kindly to that hit against Jeremiah Masoli, as well as another hit to tight end Ed Dixon from safety Jaron Johnson, who actually got ejected for that hit late in the game during the Oregon comeback in the fourth quarter. One of those players was LeGarrette Blount, whose response when he was asked about their matchup next year in 2009 against Boise State, he answered, "We owe them an ass whooping." By the end of the 2008 football season, Jeremiah Masoli had recovered from that concussion and made waves, becoming the de facto starter for the Oregon Ducks coming up in the 2009 season, capped off by a highlight reel performance against Oklahoma State in the 2008 Holiday Bowl. Mind you, 2008 was Kellen Moore's freshman year at Boise State, and he led the team to an undefeated regular season record in 2008 after beating Oregon in September, and he ended the season as an All-American with a 157.1 passer rating.
Distinctively hued field, the Ducks hoping to avoid the Blues. Both teams feeling that this is their moment.
This game in 2009, the first game of the season for both these programs, was already a marquee matchup between two heavyweights throwing haymakers, and that's exactly what that game turned out to be. Now, media analysts and fans alike expected this game to be a bit of a shootout, not only because of the result from the previous year, but also because Chip Kelly was now the head coach. He took Oregon's offense to new heights it's never seen before in previous generations, so why else would you expect different? Well, this game, it became quite the defensive battle. One, I think it's because this was Chip Kelly's first head coaching job or game that he's ever really done at this level at least. And two, because Boise State, well, frankly, had quite the stout defense, and Oregon's offensive mistakes in this game made that stout defense be able to sort of pin their ears back and play fast and loose and relaxed. Boise State's defense was so impressive that it held Oregon's notoriously blistering rushing attack to just 31 yards on the day, with Michael James being the leading rusher at 22 yards. The final score of the Smurf Turf was 19-8, and once again, after this game was when the real rivalry started heating up and went to full flame, and where the drama really happened. Boise State linebacker Byron Hout didn't take too kindly to Blount's comments made after the first game and decided to approach him and taunt him about the comments about ass whooping. Well, LeGarrette Blount didn't take too kindly to Byron Hout's comments and decided to punch him in the face, resulting in a suspension for the rest of the year until the Civil War game in 2009 when LeGarrette Blount finally played again. Despite that punch, Boise State leads the series at this point 2-0. Oregon and Boise State didn't see each other for a full 8 years after the 2009 game, seeing each other in the 2017 Las Vegas Bowl. Oregon had just come off one of the worst seasons in 2016 that they've had in decades, leading to Mark Helfrich being fired with a 4-8 record.
Boise State, ranked 25th in the country and champions of the Mountain West, taking the field at Sam Boyd Stadium in the 2017 Las Vegas Bowl as part of Capital One Bowl Mania, and waiting on the other side in apple green unis, Mario Cristobal's Oregon Ducks. Cristobal just got the job.
Now, at the time of the Las Vegas Bowl, Boise State was exactly where they were supposed to be. The year before, they had 10 wins and won the Mountain West. And this year they had around 10 wins and won the Mountain West. They belonged in this game. Now, with Oregon hiring Willie Taggart, he sure turned them around pretty quickly. 7-6 season as opposed to a 4-8 season. They were on the right track. But Willie Taggart left for Florida State right before the Las Vegas Bowl. And Mario Cristobal, who was the co-offensive coordinator, took over and coached his first Oregon game in that bowl game. Overall, I think Oregon was a little bit outmatched in that game, a little bit unprepared just because of the coach leaving as well. And Boise State wins their third, going 3-0 in the series with a score of 38-28. Now, once again, Oregon and Boise State went through a big hiatus, going a full 7 years before seeing each other again, before bringing back tradition and bringing back an early season September matchup between the two teams in 2024. Now, this time Oregon had Dan Lanning coaching his third year with the school after Mario Cristobal left, and Boise State now has Spencer Danielson coaching his first full season in 2024 after going 8-6 the previous year. Not the best year they've had in a long time, but still not great as well. But in the previous 3 games, it was clear Boise State has Oregon's number. Not only with Justin Wilcox and Chris Peterson being coaches at the time, previously at Oregon as well, but just in general, it seemed like no matter what generation of players they just had Oregon's number, and it was up to Dan Lanning to get this monkey off their back, and in 2024, that was what happened. This game was back and forth at Autzen, with punches being thrown back and forth. Oregon's offense needed to click a little more, but they were starting to find their way in this game enough that they were able to overpower this team. And of course, with Boise State at the time in 2024, they were also a playoff team that year, because you know what? Ashton Jeanty was just being Ashton Jeanty. Because Boise State was able to rely heavily on Ashton Jeanty, it was looking pretty bleak for Oregon by the time the second half came around. At some point, this type of stuff just wears and wears and wears on the defense. They were letting longer runs happen. It was looking very bleak for Oregon that they were going to go 0-4 against this team. However, special teams came into play and was the difference in this game. Tez Johnson takes this punt return 85 full yards to keep this team going and scoring points when the offense was being lackluster at times. And it kept Oregon in the game long enough that Atticus Sappington was able to nail a 25-yard last-second game-winning field goal to finally give Oregon's first win against Boise State in program history. Now with the series at 3-1, with a final score in Autzen Stadium, 37-34. Now we're just going to see how this year is going to play out.